Hello friends, today I'm going to show you how to take 4 chord shapes and make 40 different movable chords out of them by understanding the construction of 7th and 6th chords. The best part is that you already know all 4 of these chords, and if you ever forget, if you know the names of your strings, you can quickly remember them. We're going to play a dominant 7th chord off of each of the strings of our instruments. We'll play a G7th chord, and next we need a C7th chord. Then we're going to need E7th and A7th. Now, to make them movable, we need to be able to move them up the fingerboard. We're going to start here with a diminished 7th chord, 2, 3, 2, 3. And what we're going to do is take each of these notes and we're just going to move one back at a time. So if we take the notes on our G string and move it on back, we get 1, 3, 2, 3. This is an A flat 7th chord, but it is our G7th chord moved on up. If we go back to our diminished 7th chord, we now bring down the note on our C string, and this becomes a D7th chord, 2, 2, 2, 3. We move back on up, move down the note on our E string, and we have 2, 3, 1, 3, an F7th chord. And then finally, we go back to our diminished 7th chord, and we move down the note on our A string, and we have a B7th chord. And these are all 4 of the movable shapes that we need to find just about any other chord that we need. But before we do that, let's talk about why we're working with the dominant 7th chord and how it's constructed. Please take a moment to hop over to my website and grab the free PDF that goes along with this lesson, which has all of the chords we're going to talk about, as well as a great chart of chord formulas so you can understand how each of these chords are constructed. To explain dominant 7th chords, I'd like to read you a little bit of Pablo Neruda's Ode to the Cat. There was something wrong with the animals. Their tails were too long and they had unfortunate heads. Then they started coming together little by little, fitting together to make a landscape, developing birthmarks, grace, pep. But the cat, and only the cat, turned out finished and proud, born in a state of total completion. It sticks to itself and knows exactly what it wants. The dominant 7th chord is the cat. It is the only chord that we will play on the instrument that will always be the dominant 7th chord and have the same function. As we will see in this lesson, all of the other chord shapes that we can turn this into can masquerade by different names and have different functions depending on how we use them in music. But these 4 shapes, our dominant 7th chords, are always dominant 7th chords. Now let's quickly look at the construction of this, and we'll take the C7. So open, 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 1. A major chord is constructed of the root, the 3rd, and the 5th. If we think of a C major scale, we have C, there's our root, D, E, there's our major 3rd, F, G, there's our 5th. And to make it a dominant 7th chord, we're going to add not the 7th, but the flat 7th. So here's our C up top on the 3rd fret, we come down 2 half steps. There's our B flat. So we have the root, the 3rd, the 5th, and the flat 7th. Now let's take this shape, move it up to our D7th, and see how we can manipulate each of the voices to create new chords out of this. Our D7th chord has the same relationship of notes as the C7th does, as it's the same shape, just moved up 2 frets or a whole step. So our D7th chord has the root, a D, on the C string, our major 3rd, the F sharp, on the E string, our 5th, the A, on the G string, and our flat 7th, our C, on the A string. Now we're not going to think about building new chord shapes, we're going to think about how each of the individual voices moves and creates a new sound for the chord. You see, arranging chords for uke is sort of like arranging for a choir. We have the bass, the tenor, the alto, and the soprano, and each of them have their role that can affect how the chord makes us feel and how it sounds. So first we're going to look at the notes on the A string, which we said we're playing our flat 7th right now. So these will be 7ths and 6ths that we are adding on the A string. So we play our D7th. If we move this up a half step or 1 fret, playing a C sharp, and this gives us the sound of a D major 7th. And I always think of this as floating above the clouds. This is a nice, beautiful color sound. If we go back to our D dominant 7th chord, this doesn't have that. It has the sound of directionality. D7th wants to go somewhere, wants to go up a 4th to G, as we've probably done many times. So the 7th and the 6th are going to tell us different colors and directionality of the chord. Our major 7th has that nice color of floating. Our D dominant 7th has the sound of motion. And if we move this note down and play 2, 2, 2, 2, this is a D 6th chord, and this is a different sort of color, a more subtle sort of color that we'll see can be used in different ways depending on context. Now, as we go over to the E string, this note is our 3rd. It is currently an F sharp. And the 3rd is going to tell us whether the chord is major or minor. We are currently playing a major 3rd. We're going to move it down to our 1st fret, so we'll play 2, 2, 1, 3. And this is now a D minor 7th chord. Our minor 7th chord has the same 7th as our dominant 7th. We're only changing the 3rd. This has a darker sort of sound to it. Now we can also add that major 7th to this chord. Remember how it was floating above that major chord before? D minor major 7th has a very foreboding sort of sound. D minor 7th, D minor major 7th. We can also add the 6th to this. And this also has a very dark sound to it. Our minor chord is darker than the major chord. Some people think of it as happy and sad, but I prefer dark and bright. But whatever you need to do to remember that sound is what's important. If we go back to the D7th, we have one more note that we can move. The D will not change because this is our root. It would no longer be a D chord. If we started to play with this, we would be moving into chord extensions, which we won't be doing today. We're going to change the 5th on our A string, and the 5th tells us whether it's stable or not. The 5th and the root together, this open 5th sound that we're currently playing, is very stable. So if we alter the 5th against the root, we play a flat 5 or a sharp 5, it's going to make this chord even more unstable. So D7th, if we move down to the 1st fret, 1, 2, 2, 3, this is a D7 flat 5. This is an even more unstable chord than D7th. It also wants to go to G. But what if we take that D7th and we move the 5th up, so we have a D7 sharp 5? It has the same function. It's still a dominant chord and it still is unstable, but in a different sort of way. We're moving that note up, so it's a brighter sort of instability. Now we can also take this and we can play this over top of our minor 7 triad. So here's our minor 7, we're going to flat the 5. 1, 2, 1, 2. There's a D minor 7 with a flat 5. A nice dark sound that can be used as a dominant sound. We see it can be used for a lot of different things. We can also add the 6th to this, but in this case we're going to call it a diminished 7th, so this will be a C flat, not a B this time, but we don't need to get hung up on details, which gives us 1, 2, 1, 2, our fully diminished 7th chord. Now this is how we can do this with one of the chord shapes, so now let's look at the next one. For each of the other chord shapes, we're going to make the same exact modifications to the chord, but we're going to find that they sound different because of how the notes are laid out. This is what's called voicing a chord, and really helps you understand that it's not just the notes in the chord, but how we lay it out on the fingerboard that matters. So if we go over to our E string root dominant 7th chord, in our position we're going to play an F 7th chord. 2, 3, 1, 3. So we have our root, the F, on the E string. We have our 3rd, our major 3rd, the A on the G string. We have our 5th up top on the A string, and we have our flatted 7th down here on the C string. Now we're going to change the 7th first. The 7th is now on the E string, so our F major 7th becomes this. Now that sound is not the same as when we were playing this voicing for it, is it? It's a little more tense because we have these two inner notes clashing with each other. They're in the same octave. So this will give you a different sort of sound than this other floaty voicing that we were playing. Now we can take the same idea from our F7th and play an F6th chord. We bring our ring finger down to 2, 2, 1, 3, and you should be saying, Chris, you just told me this is a D minor 7th chord, and you're absolutely right. A D minor 7th chord and an F6th are the same thing. This is why we want to learn off of the dominant chord, because remember that the dominant chord is the only chord that is always a dominant chord. So as we go back to our F7th, let's look at what the third does. Remember, this is major or minor, so the third is now on our G string. We come back to F minor 7th, 1, 3, 1, 3. That nice, slightly darker sound of F. Now our minor major 7th, not a voicing I use often, 1, 4, 1, 3. Again, we have that fight of the major 7th and the root together. It has its place, but not a lot of places. Come back to our F7th, and then what about our F minor 6th? Wasn't this our D minor 7 flat 5? It absolutely is, but it's now an F minor 6 because we're thinking of the F as the root. As we come back to our F7th, let's look at what the 5th does, the stability of the chord. So I have F7 with a flat 5, 2, 3, 1, 2. Very unstable chord, but where's it want to go? B flat. What about F7 with a sharp 5? Just slide that pinky on up. Still wants to go to B flat. And then we have an F minor 7 with a flat 5. Still wants to come. And then we have finally our F fully diminished 7th. 1, 2, 1, 2. And this is exactly the same as the D diminished 7th that we were just playing because the diminished chord has a lot of different purposes. Let's look at our next voicing. Now we move on over to the G string, which gives us an A flat 7th chord for our movable position. We have 1, 3, 2, 3. Our root is now on the G string. Our third is on the A string. Our 5th is on the C string. And our flat 7 is on the E string. So let's move that 7th first. Let's push it up a fret or a half step, making an A flat major 7, 1, 3, 3, 3. We're back to that sound of floating above the clouds. Back to our dominant chord. And we move that note on down for an A flat 6th. Didn't we just play this as an F minor 7th? Absolutely. Same chord, different root. Now what about major or minor? Let's move that third on down on the A string, 1, 3, 2, 2. What if we play that with a major 7th, 1, 3, 3, 2. Nice foreboding chord. How about A flat minor 6, 1, 3, 1, 2. Did we already play this chord? Yes, we did. Back to the A flat 7th chord. What about our 5th? Let's add some instability to this. So bring the 5th down, which is now in our C string. Isn't this a D7 flat 5? Well, yeah, it's the same as an A7 flat 5. Same chord, different function, different root. Now as we move on up, we got our A flat 7 sharp 5. Again, we get two notes in the middle that are fighting with each other. You may not like this fight, you may love this fight. Everyone's tolerance for dissonance is a little bit different. Now we can make the minor chords as well. So we have our A flat 7, how about A flat minor 7 flat 5, 1, 3, 3, 3. Nice chord shape. And then we can bring that note down one more to have our diminished 7th chord, 1, 2, 1, 2. Again, the same exact diminished 7th chord. Let's look at our final voicing. I hope you all are enjoying this lesson. If you want to put ideas like this to use every single week, join me over on the Tin Man's Magic Ukulele Club, where we use jazz standards as vehicles to learn about improvisation and harmony. For our final chord shape, we're going to take a B7th chord, 2, 3, 2, 2. Our root is on the A string, our major third is on the C string, our 5th is on the E string, and our flat 7th is on the G string. Now let's move that 7th first, push it up one fret or a half step to a B major 7, 3, 3, 2, 2. Note that this sound doesn't float like the other ones quite as much. And if you're playing high G, you'll find a little fight between these because they're in the same octave. That's okay. You might like it, you might not. Now we can also take this B7th, push that 7th down, and play a B6th chord. You should say, I've seen this one before. Absolutely, we've seen it as a minor 7th chord. As we go back to our B7th, let's look what happens when we change that third from major to minor. The C string moves, we have 2, 2, 2, 2. We played this as a D6th, didn't we? But now it's a B minor 7th. Now we can also push up the 7th here, B minor, major 7th, 3, 2, 2, 2. Or we could push that 7th down to a B minor 6th. Again, a chord voicing that we've already seen. What about the 5th? Changing the stability of the chord to B7 flat 5, 2, 3, 1, 2. chord shape we've already seen before. B7, sharp that 5, our brighter sounding unstable chord. B minor 7 flat 5, 2, 2, 1, 2, right? Here's our B minor 7th chord, we flat the 5, F sharp to F. And then finally, we bring down that 7th to our diminished 7th, same note as the 6th. We have 1, 2, 1, 2, giving us a B diminished 7th chord, which is identical to all of the other diminished 7th chords we've been playing. So the real question is, what are we supposed to do with this knowledge? The big takeaway from this lesson is to learn those 4 key shapes, your 4 movable dominant 7th chords, because off of them we can learn all of our other types of 7th and 6th chords. But should you memorize all of those 7th and 6th chords? I don't think you should, because as we saw when we went through the modifications of the chords, there are a lot of chord shapes that pop up more often and are more useful than others. So if I was learning movable chord shapes, I would first learn my 4 key dominant 7th chord shapes, and then learn my 6th chords and my minor 6th chords. Because our 6th chords can be 6th chords, they can be minor 7th chords, they can be 13th chords stacked on top of the dominant chord, they can be major 9 chords. Our minor 6 chords can be dominant 9 chords, they can be minor 7 flat 5 chords, and so many other things. We want to learn the most versatile of them, and luckily I have videos for every single one of these. Check out this playlist here for all of my videos on harmony and how to use it. Now, we've only scratched the surface here. Of course, we can go much further than just 7th chords and 6th chords. We have dominant 11th chords, 13th chords, flat 9, flat 13 chords, and understanding them will be much easier if you already understand these basic concepts of how the 7th chords and 6th chords are built. I'll see you all soon.